finding that similar ground, I think, is what successful change-ready businesses that can adjust and maintain in the areas that they need to, and make changes in other areas, and allow their employee base to enable that for an organization commercially, I think, and vice versa, to allow an organization the understanding, ability, and aptitude to recognize what individuals need and want. I think that's critical. And you can get some magic, cultural magic, I think, aligned to business performance when that happens.
Cultural magic. That's a new buzz term. You heard it here first on Small Talk Window. Well, hello there, and welcome to the Small Talk Window podcast, where we have a small window of time, 10 minutes or so, to dispense with the small talk as quickly as possible and settle into a meaningful conversation around the world of work. Think about the two main stakeholders in the world of work. While we're at it, the workforce and its employer. A natural pendulum sways back and forth between each of these stakeholders' perceived and real needs. I bet you can picture it. At times closer to where the employer would like it, and at other times where employees would like it. This pendulum's position always marks a compromise, and that could be conscious or not so conscious, by the way. Here with me for this episode is isolved Chief People Officer Amy Mosher. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much, Brent. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with me. Very excited about today's episode. And we've done a few podcasts in previous lives.
We have.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
I think I've lost count of so many.
I know. That's only a good thing, Brent.
I know. I saw some of my favorite people out there in the people business, to be honest. And this is a really, really interesting discussion today around that pendulum and how that compromise works and how it affects the quality of the employee experience and everything else. So why don't we kind of get into this? How do employers and employees' perceived wants and needs differ? And how does this pendulum reveal the reality? Maybe an example or something like that.
Yeah. I would like to actually challenge the whole concept of a pendulum, which is pretty fun.
Okay.
But we can talk about that in a moment. But
Sure.
I really feel like there can sometimes be a differing alignment as to what's important to an organization versus an individual or set of individuals, and that's really where I think issues lie. When an organization is often making decisions that are for the betterment of the business, that can be perceived as not being for the betterment of an individual, and vice versa, which I feel like is really what constitutes kind of that pendulum swing, or the concept of a pendulum, if you will. So I do like to challenge that. I really feel like when you have joint understanding of what the objectives are for both individuals or sets of individuals and the organization, you can find some common ground. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. And I think that's the success that some organizations find in aligning the wants and the needs of both entities, if you will. But I'd say they can be vastly different, and they can be vastly the same, or vastly similar. But finding that similar ground, I think, is what successful change-ready businesses that can adjust and maintain in the areas that they need to, and make changes in other areas, and allow their employee base to enable that. For an organization commercially, I think, and vice versa, to allow an organization the understanding, ability, and aptitude to recognize what individuals need and want. I think that's critical. And you can get some magic, cultural magic, I think, aligned to business performance when that happens.
Cultural magic. That's a new buzz term. You heard it here first on Small Talk Window. I'm not
The
even
new
sure.
HR
No, it's
HR
funny too,
t-shirt.
but yeah, it's mark my words. The pendulum, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying about that pendulum and how, um, there's all sorts of different ways to just sort of visualize this or to sort of metaphors or the pendulum, I think, is a metaphor.
Yeah.
If I got my concept of metaphors right here. But yeah, if it's in the middle, then it's, you kind of, both sides, each
Yeah.
stakeholder,
Yeah.
major stakeholders
Yeah.
feels sort of equally like you're in a
Yeah.
copacetic place,
Yeah.
right? If it's
Yeah.
way over to one side, then the other side, whether it's their perception is reality.
Yeah.
The founder of public relations said that. I think it was Walter Lippmann way back in
Yep. Yeah.
the early 1900s, as Generation Z calls it. In any event, one side is their perceived needs and perceived reality is not what they would like it to be, right? And so as you're closer to the middle there, it's almost like a.
Are you tired of talent and HR podcasts that sound like corporate training videos? Same. Talentless is the no-fluff show about hiring, leadership, culture, and what's actually going on in the world of work. Talentless is a podcast for recruiters by recruiters. Hosted by Desiree Goldie and Ashley King, they're smart, occasionally salty, and never afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe at talentlesspodcast.com.
It's not necessarily the natural state, but it's the best state. So maybe cultural magic is making the not so natural state of the pendulum be the sort of the norm, the default position
Or
of.
broadening that natural state. I think, it doesn't have to be right in the middle. Can it be right here? Because you understand the objectives of both parties and you don't have to agree, but you do got to understand, you got to move things forward, right? I think there's some really interesting statistics that we got from our HR leaders report this year with isolved. We survey thousands of leaders every year, and this one's really interesting, and it had to do with the productivity of employees influencing commercial business, and that was that 48% of employers and HR people feel that employees who are engaged are clearly being more productive. So if we're being more productive by engaging from an employee perspective, like individual needs are being met, it's really what engagement means, then the commercial part of your business will succeed.
Mm.
So it is reciprocal, right?
With
So
the other, yeah, not to interrupt here,
no, please.
but you got me thinking, that it's also about employee communications. I
Yes.
mean, if you're very clear and transparent,
Yeah.
and with your communication, and
Yeah.
you keep the employee contingent or the workforce apprised, right?
Yep.
And you treat them like adults, right?
Yep.
You don't try to sugarcoat stuff. You tell them like it is, and maybe they'd be more apt to understand.
Hi, I'm Carmen Hudson. I'm the host of the Recruiting Book Club, and we're starting our second season. I'm so excited to bring to you another set of guests of recruiters who have written books. We are excited to have some very special guests this season. We've got Shally, we've got Craig Fisher, James Ellis, and quite a few other people that we're going to bring on board to tell us about what they wrote, why they wrote it, and maybe we'll veer off into a conversation about recruiting on all types of topics and subjects that happen in our industry. So I hope you can join us. I'm excited.
The commercial side of the business's needs, and that helps to broaden the berth of the pendulative swing that's considered, still cultural magic. I love that.
Yeah, I feel like that for me, from a business leader perspective, it's all about management trust. And individuals who are making commercial decisions that impact employees' wants and needs as a member of the business, if they understand and they can be transparent and they can help employees understand the why and prioritize their wants and needs closer to what the commercial business can provide, and just understanding that, I feel like creates that magic. It creates that gray space where things are getting done and you're able to move things with commercially within the organization, and the employees can catch up so much faster. That management trust for me, I mean, I work in high change, high growth businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and without that leadership trust, you just can't get things done. You can't grow your business at the pace that you need to. You can't meet the needs of the employees from an engagement perspective. Like you end up stilted, or stunted, I should say, in that you just don't have the ability to move as fast. And if you can gain that management trust, you can gain that understanding of the why so much faster on both sides, I think,
Yeah.
of
Oh,
the
I
pendulum.
I agree. And by the way, as with all these conversations, and especially with you, we could go all day
Oh my
long. I'm
goodness.
thinking about trust, trust being a bedrock principle, right? Right? In
I
culture,
know.
right? And leadership being such an important piece. We could talk, there's all sorts of avenues we could go on
Yeah.
about leadership and all that. But yes, trust being that major bedrock piece of the puzzle when it comes to establishing a good, resilient culture.
Mhm.
Um, and we have about a minute and a half left because we have this is small talk window. So yeah, I know, but I feel like we really covered this. I mean, one thing that I just want to get into super quick here
Mhm.
is that first of all, the majority, more than three-quarters of HR leaders, I was reading through your report, more than
Mhm.
three-quarters, I think it's 76% of them,
Mhm.
believe that employee expectations are not out of control. But
Mhm.
there is I would say maybe a stubborn sort of 25% of them, or we can call them something else. Maybe they know something we don't know. They're probably have legitimate concerns, but there's about a quarter of them. They think that it's kind of out of control. Do you have any insight around that?
Yeah, I feel like it just comes from misalignment. From a whole sense of out of control means that it's not something that is aligned to the business objectives, like the employee needs are not aligned to the business objectives within that organization
Mm,
for those 25% of individuals who responded to the survey. And that's very telling. I think it's about communication, to your point. I think it's about leadership trust. I feel like there's so much that organizations can do to help minimize that gap.
yeah.
But a lot of it is about employees voicing their needs and wants more, I
Mhm,
think, and having more of a soapbox, if you will, or a platform to be able to voice those concerns, which is a good thing.
mhm,
That is a way toward progress. I feel
mm,
like when people are being more transparent, but it's coming from one side. That transparency is coming from one side of the pendulum. So if we can
mm.
get the transparency to meet in the middle, that's where you're getting optimized kind
That's
of
yeah,
situation.
cultural
Yeah.
magic, right? And that's about having the culture that so they feel safe sharing their ideas, and
Mhm.
you also have that technology in place so that there's a way for them to share it efficiently
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
might it might be a great culture, but there's no way to get it from here to there. So, there's
Sure.
can't get there from here, as I say in Maine. But
I
uh,
and having more than one way to get that information, I think, is also really important.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, fascinating topic, Amy, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Brent. Likewise.